Hey everybody, and welcome back to the HobbyNut 007 channel. Well, it's time to do a full build on Carl Casper's telephone booth. This is a kit that I built back in the 60s when I was a young tyke, and I had fond memories of it, and my buddy Jeff Elliott gave me this at Acme last year, and it has haunted me, and I've put this in a video here not long ago that this thing has haunted me. And I moved it into the shop, and it's haunted me even more. So it is time to knock this thing out. Simple kit, but I think it's going to be a fun kit and a lot of great memories for me. So let's get started. Bring your model to life with MCV products. Visit them on the World Wide Web at mcvproducts.net. Okay guys, so here's the plan. As at the moment, I'm going to wire and plumb the engine. I'm going to do the, for the receiver here, I want to go ahead and do a cord for that. There's several things that I want to make some changes on. I'll show you that as we go along, but I look forward to getting into this thing. So let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. If you remember, I showed you some of these old yellow instructions here. Gotta love this thing, man. Got some pictures of the real car, and I'll share those later on as we go on. The engine is, and I'm going to be referring back and forth to the box top because the pictures there with Carl Casper with the car is the real car. You'll notice here that the distributor's in the rear, and you see the wires going to the Hemi valve covers, the Hemi head valve covers. So we're going to have to be making a change there because what comes with the kit are the DeSoto dome fire valve covers. So I'll show you that in just a second. There's a few other changes. You notice the lamps here on the front, and on the back there aren't any, and you'll notice back here, I'm getting ahead of myself, but on the kit there's a little gas cap right in the center here, and you notice on the real car there is not. And we'll take a look at that a little bit more. Like I said, we'll be referring back and forth to this box top. And oh, one thing real quick I will show you is, you notice the firewall is like a piece of polished aluminum or chrome right there all the way around. And what comes in the kit is, as you see, it's got all of this, the wiring and stuff all over it. So we're going to have to take all of that off, and I'm going to get on that today too. The back panel of the body, as I said, you've got this hole where there's a little gas cap that goes in there, and the actual car did not have that, so we're going to be making a change there. And while we're back on this back piece, as you see, there is a single tail light right here, but there are no lanterns like there are in the front on the back. But the kit actually has lanterns back here and no tail light back here. So we're gonna be making some adjustments as we go. The engine, a simple, as I said, 392 Hemi, and I went ahead and got into the parts box, and I've got some parts by Parks, or excuse me, a Detail Master magneto to go on it with the red wires. I've already got the engine put together. It's pretty rough. You can see a lot of the ridge right down through there from some flash on the top and bottom. So I'm going to have to do some sanding there, which we'll be doing here in a minute. The headers, as you can see, there's a lot of mold lines on this stuff. So, and check this out back here on the bottom side. So all this will be sanded away. And I'm going to be using either my hobby knife or our Tamiya scriber. And by the way, if you don't have one of these, this thing is really good. You run that out, you got an excellent edge there for scribing panel lines, and this thing comes with 2 extra blades in the handle, and you can order those. They're not expensive, and those are made by Alpha, by the way. But we'll be scribing, getting some fresh lines down through here. Normally I would use solder and make another set of headers, but this is going to be a shelf queen, and so I'm going to clean those up and do what I can with those. And in that these cars were show cars, they're going to be, there's a lot of chrome on these old 60s, 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s show cars. Tons of chrome, and if you look at the real cars, you see too that the pipes are chrome. Just about everything on the engine's chrome, aside from the block. I think in this one it was black. The engine block was, and then I'm going to research that a little further to make sure. As I was saying, the valve covers that come with a kit are the DeSoto, well, if I can get it right up, DeSoto Fire Dome. I don't know if I can get the shut. There you go. Just right. But so these weren't going to work. So I went to the parts box and threw these Hemi valve covers in the purple pond. They were painted orange, and stripped them back down. So we'll be using our dead center punch that we got from our buddy Art Lasky, and we're going to be centering up and drilling out for the wires. The injectors, I'm still not, jury's kind of out on the injectors. They're tapered a little bit, which that's the way they look in the real car, but I've got something in mind to drill out at the bases for the fuel lines to go into, and we're just going to play with that. I'm debating over whether to make a new injector or to modify this one. Not totally sure how I'm going to do this yet, but excuse me, guys. Coffee definitely went down the wrong way there. Anyway, this, I like the shape, I like the look. It's just what's on the real car, but I may make a little bit of a change there. It's not a really good fit. You can see the corners there. Maybe making another one. I'm just going to play that by ear. Transmission's the same way as the engine block as far as the seam, even though she's centered up pretty well. It needs some sanding and some work, and that's okay. Added a few other pieces. This is a much more accurate looking alternator. So that came out of the parts box too. The stool that is in the car, get these engine parts out of the way. The stool that's in the car is just a four-leg type stool. And as you see, it just goes together, and it doesn't look bad. I remember doing this. However, the real car had a stem type stool in it. And what I mean by that is, and you can barely see it here, but almost like you would see in a soda shop or something back in the day, you had a single solid post, and then the seat would spin or turn on that. I kind of like the look of the four-leg stool. I think that just looks really, really cool. And in that's what came with the kit, and this is for memory purposes. I may stay with that. One of the things I've discovered I'm going to have a little bit of a problem fixing is here you'll notice that this is kind of bowed downward. And easy fix for that, I think. I'm going to be doing some, I'll do the hot water first and see how that does, then put some weight. And if you'll see right here how this is kind of bowed, and if you put the weight on it, boom. I mean, that's how far off it is. But that right there is flat, so that's perfect. So we'll be heating that up, getting a little weight right here in the center so it'll even up and get these things from that bowed look there. I don't think that's going to be too hard. But this is old molds, and you can see all this flash down in here. There's some uneven spots and flash that'll be easily sanded away. A little bit more work, but again, it's an older kit. I shared with you before, the chrome is really not that great. You see the white, well, if I can get it in the light right. The chrome was not that good. You see a lot of the white down there where it just didn't get a coverage on it. So I'll probably be taking everything off of here and then re-chroming it. Next are, well, the other problem that I ran into is some of the glass, the corner pieces here. This one can be polished out, no big deal. There's not really any severe scratches or problems with it. The folding door pieces, Both of them look really good. This one's got a little bit, that'll polish out because you can't feel it, but you can see a little bit of mar there from where a tire was touching it, but we'll get that taken care of. Headlight lenses. The floor, I'm thinking about replacing a piece of this with some of the evergreen or plastruct. I don't remember which one it is, but I have some tread plate. And a section of this I think I'll do in that tread plate. I think it'll look really good. I was thinking about doing some of that tread plate on the roof of the telephone booth up here too. Not sure yet, not sure. I'm just going to see how things look. I've got a piece of photo etch tread plate that I think might look really, really good up there too, but we're just going to play that by ear. Tires and wheels. They are a little rough. But I really think I can clean these up. I'm not a fan of these M&H Racemaster drag slicks. In fact, these are M&H Racemaster, and if you look really close at the pictures here, well, I don't know if you can see it. I can see it, but right above the word Goodyear, you've got a little faint blue line that you can see. So I broke out my a set of my drag slicks from AMT, and these have the blue line. So I think I'm going to be replacing the drag slicks on the back with these. And the only real problem I think I'm going to have to use some clear replacement styrene for is the back window. This one I'm going to try to sand it out, but you can see right there where one of the tires was laying on it, and this one you can feel a pretty deep, this one's you can barely feel, if anything. That one should sand out. This one I'm going to attempt to sand out, but this one I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it because it's pretty deep. And then we'll take some Novus and see if we can buff that back out too once we get it sanded level. But I have my doubts about this one because, again, it's pretty deep. So that's where we are on the pre-stuff. And, guys, I'd like to have this done for an upcoming show, the end of July. Don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm going to give it my best shot anyway. With all that said, let's get sanding and working on the engine, cleaning up this firewall. Try to have everything in primer and a little bit of color on some stuff by the next video, hopefully in just a few days. So stick around and we'll get at it. I'll get this stuff sanded up, primed, and we'll take a look at it. Stick around. Okay, guys, we're back, and I did not get it in primer, but I wanted to share with you before. This video is getting a little long, so I want to go ahead and wrap this one up right now. But went ahead and fixed up a few things. I'll share those with you real quick. The fan had a lot of flash on it, and we've got that, hopefully you can see that, kind of cleaned up. And in that this is a show rod, and most everything on these old show rods, 50s, 60s, 70s, was chrome. So we'll be priming all this stuff, and then we'll be hitting it with a Revell chrome. The little bit of flash, wasn't a whole lot on the alternator. Sorry about that, guys. I just didn't want to focus. But anyway, got that cleaned up. As I was cleaning this up and kind of rounding everything off, I realized that I've got 2 or 3 sets of the Parts by Parks Hemi aluminum pulleys and belts. So I'm thinking I may just change this out anyway. But anyway, that's cleaned up and ready to go. The valve covers, if you remember, it had the little holes up here, which you can barely see where they were. Put a piece of styrene down in there, glued them up. We've got our holes drilled out for the Hemi heads for the wires and the boots. Transmission, you remember how that was uneven looking up here, and we had that great big seam down the middle. Got all of that sanded away and cleaned up. I am going to put a little bit of putty right there. There's a little bit of sinkhole right there. You can see I'm going to fix that. That'll be taken care of when you see it next. Went ahead in that the engine, as it turns out, was chrome. So kind of got all of that ready. Now, the transmission, by the way, I'm going to do in a like polished aluminum, so it'll have some contrast to it there. But the engine, because it was a show rod, was chrome. So just about everything there. Next up, the injectors. I don't know if you can see in there, but where I've drilled out where the injector, the fuel lines will go. Yeah, you can see up in there. The fuel lines will be going in there, and that's drilled out on both sides, so we'll be taking care of that. And then, of course, the distributor goes right down in the back through that hole back there. And you see this was two-piece, and you see how you've got that seam there. Well, I'm going to be filling that in down the middle and in the front, because when it's chrome, a lot of that stuff's going to stand out. So we're going to be filling that seam in. And the, I told you this thing didn't fit worth a flip, but I did some sanding and kind of reshaping a little bit, and man, it drops in there and fits great now. And it's a good kind of tight fit, but it really looks good. And there was a couple of injection mold marks in here that you see I've got some mud thrown on those, and I'm going to get those sanded down, and they'll look pretty good. And if I didn't throw it in the floor, there it is. You see the ridges on the bottom here, and those just line right up, and that'll be the bottom of the injector, I guess the injector scoop or hat or whatever you want to call it. So that's looking pretty good too. On the headers, we used our dead center drill punch from, like I mentioned, Art Lasky, to get these centered up in the headers. And you remember all that flash that was down in between everything. Man, that was a nightmare. Probably spent more time on the headers cleaning up and rounding and smoothing the edges than I did about anything. This was a good bit of work here. But I think they're going to be worth it. And then what I'm going to do is on my motor tool, not the Dremel, but one of my low-speed motor tools, we're going to use this Dremel piece here. And we're going to kind of slowly, one at a time, open these up and give them a good look, and shape those accordingly. And we took a piece of styrene rod, put down in there, put a little putty on that too, and then smooth that nice and flat out as it is on the real car. And when you see this again, it'll have the primer and maybe even a base coat before we go with the candy color on it. And you see in this picture well, here's a couple of pictures. This picture of the firewall, we removed all of that stuff, if you remember. And when we did, there was a notch up at the top, as you see here. And then we put a couple pieces of just like a triangular, just a couple pieces of scrap sheet plastic. Built that up, put a little putty on it, and then sanded that and shaped it with one of our jeweler's files. And as you see, we've got a nice flat firewall there. So we'll be putting probably a piece of bare metal foil over this to represent that polished aluminum look. And lastly, for right now, you remember the floor here. You saw where this is where the steering wheel went. There was a place for the gas pedal, the foot pedal here, gear shift thing here. But I'd mentioned that I thought I was going to use a piece of tread plate, and I really like this. This is a piece of the evergreen tread plate, and I'm sorry, plastruct. So I cut that, and you'll see these little ridges around the edge here. Well, this is where the framing of the actual booth itself, sorry guys, hitting the camera there, the booth will go around here, and then there's your transmission area opening there. But I really thought a piece of tread plate on the floor would look really good, so we got that cut and left the edge for the door side there. You see where the hinge for the door goes, and all the way around. So we'll have this here, and I cut with the razor saw the little holder shaft, and I've got the measurements from both sides and down where that steering wheel shaft has got to go. And then I'm gonna, this thing did not have a brake pedal or a clutch pedal, anything like that, so I'm probably going to be adding those on my own. And I don't remember if the real car had them in it or not. You know, that it wasn't a drivable car; it was a show car. But I may add those anyway. But I think that tread plate looks pretty good. I'm thinking about putting one up on the roof of it so it's not just a flat piece of aluminum. But never crawled up on the top of a phone booth and took a look. But that's where we are right now. Everything tomorrow is going to get a coat of primer. Going to go ahead and fill this seam in on this. Get the blower, or excuse me, the injector scoop put together and let it start drying. And I'll probably start assembling some of the other basic parts. The other thing I have not gotten to was that. Sorry guys, I'm still knocking the camera around. The one thing I didn't get to was this, the chassis. So in the morning that'll be another thing that I'll do, and I'll get that on one of the other shelves and get some weight on that after we get some hot water in. We'll get some weight on that and let that sit there and cool back down. We'll have that ready, and we'll be ready to start doing some of the suspension. I am going to be lowering the suspension just a touch. The pictures I've been looking at online of some of the build-ups that are out there, they certainly ride kind of high. And as you see how high that sits up, I think I'd like it sitting a little bit lower since it's a show rod, but we'll see. And all this suspension too, by the way, is in a show car. You can see the rear end there is chrome, the front axle's chrome. The kit stuff is all in white, so we'll be chroming a lot. The body is going to be, while it looks red, I think I told you it's kind of a candy orange, and you can see the pinstriping back here. So there are no decals, and in the original decals, as I recall, those weren't in there anyway. So I'm going to be improvising on some of those pinstripes and stuff like that too. But this is just a fun, like I've mentioned before, a shelf model, shelf queen, but I really look forward to it. I think it's going to be a cool memory for me anyway. I know some people might think it's weird, but I like it. All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. Appreciate you sticking around. Head over to HobbyNut Models. Check out Mark's inventory, as always, and mcvproducts.net. Check out Matthew's inventory as well. Guys, God bless. Love you. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.